Let's talk about food insecurity and the fact that when you are marginalized within a group of people and you have less privilege, like you might not have access to good food. So let's talk about this. I'm going to read to you from my book. It's going to be linked, and it's about some of the things that I experienced. My brother went to a hospital in another state due to the burns from the fire, and the community sent us children to different homes. Our men went to the hospital in the other state. I was sent with my one brother to my Aunt Hannah's house. My aunt had children of her own and was married to a minister in the church. And I was to work to earn my keep. I was 9 years old. Tasks I was to complete included carrying in wood, helping make food, pack school lunches, sweep and mop the floors, clean the windows, and more. I hummed as I happily cleaned the bedrooms upstairs until there were new assailants in the bedrooms. As I was going to carry wood, I would experience even more horror. I fought, but I was never strong enough to protect myself. I couldn't go to the outhouse here. This memory stands out vividly, walking past the wood piled up all neatly to go to the outhouse and getting to the outhouse to someone lying in wait to grape me. As I packed the school lunches, I hummed. I had to use cheap bologna to make myself and my brother sandwiches as instructed to do so by my aunt. I also wasn't allowed to give us all the same food as my cousins' lunches. I made separate lunches for my cousins with healthier food and more food than what I was allowed to pack for myself. I tried to sneak my cousin's food into my lunchbox one day, and my cousin ran home and told her mem. I got hit for that. My brother was soon sent elsewhere, and I was alone in this house of horrors with the people who proclaimed themselves my savior. When we ate together, my aunt didn't allow me to eat the same food as everyone else at the table. She said it cost too much to feed me. And when I was mopping the huge living room, my cousin sat there reading a book and watched me clean. There's so much more. But what you need to understand is that when people experience less privilege, they often have less access to food. And when I talk about having food insecurity and going to bed hungry with my stomach hurting, which is something I write about in my book in multiple occasions, and the expectation that any kind of food was good enough, the expectation that expired food and, the cheap food, well, that's anything is good enough. When you're hungry and you are practically at risk of not surviving because of food insecurity, you will eat whatever you have. And it doesn't mean that it builds like a healthy body, especially for growing children. Furthermore, I don't believe that I have to be grateful for that. Maybe I'm grateful that I survived. Maybe some days I might be. But, at the end of the day, to watch people around you eating better food and to know that you are unworthy does something to a child, and it does something that, it sends a message. It says you're not worthy of good food. You're just not good enough. And especially when the same settlement also gave us their livers to eat, and the livers are gross, and that's, ugh. Anyways, like that has caused long-term consequences for many people, and for me specifically. Like I said, I still throw up at the smell of liver. Liver is not my favorite, and I can only hope that none of the people who think that me talking about food insecurity and what I experienced is unoriginal content. Maybe it's unoriginal in the story of like marginalized people don't have access to food, or they have food insecurity. Maybe that's unoriginal. But when we talk about our lived experiences, that's our lived experience. Furthermore, to pretend that everybody who's Amish makes everything from scratch is also a stereotype and a rumor. And part of the reason that I address that and that I talk about the food insecurity is because when we didn't have good food, We had food that was outdated and expired. And we had food that came from boxes and cans. And we ate it because it was all we had. So maybe we just need to actually hold space. And maybe we should just consider that when people are talking about their lived experiences, sometimes that lived experience may not be exactly what the stereotype is. And if you grew up Amish and you always had food, you know, good food, and you never went to bed hungry, good for you. But I didn't. Neither did my siblings. And I write about it in my book. And I talk about it because I know I'm not the only one. And while I can't tell other people's experiences for them, I can talk about my experience with food insecurity. I can't talk about the expectation that I should be appropriately grateful. We should be appropriately grateful for the cat. Cat. So, anyways, if you want to know more about the food insecurity I experienced, I did write about it a little bit more, but anyways, that's just I'm just here to say that. Thank you. Y'all have a good day now.